The planet Lysara was full of bright colors and strange music. All around the city, banners and lights decorated the buildings. The beauty contest on Lysara was the most important event in the whole galaxy. Every year, people from many worlds came to watch. The Lysaran princess Lyra was the star of the event. She was famous for her kindness and beauty, and everyone was excited to see who she would choose as her mate. This year, among the visitors was a group of humans who had traveled far to attend the event. Ethan Carter was one of them. He was quiet and did not like crowds, but he had agreed to come because he wanted to learn about other worlds. He worked as a cultural exchange officer and tried to help different species understand each other. He wore a simple suit, feeling out of place among the many well-dressed aliens around him. Ethan walked with his friends, looking at all the different creatures and costumes. He was amazed by how different everything was on Lysara. The air was sweet and the sky was a soft purple color. Everyone seemed happy, talking and laughing as they waited for the contest to begin. When the contest started, everyone gathered in a large open hall. The stage was decorated with flowers that glowed. The crowd was huge. Some people wore long robes, some had colorful feathers, and others had shiny metal suits. Ethan sat near the back, trying not to be noticed. Princess Lyra came onto the stage. She wore a dress made of silver and blue fabric, and her hair was full of sparkling gems. She smiled at the crowd and waved. Cameras floated in the air, recording everything. The crowd cheered for her. The contest went on for a long time. There were dances and songs. Each of the suitors tried to impress Lyra. Some gave gifts, others told stories, and a few showed off their skills. The suitors were from many different planets, and each was important in their own way. Some were warriors, others were scientists, and a few were leaders from faraway worlds. Ethan watched quietly. He felt like an outsider, but he was curious. He did not expect anything special to happen. He just wanted to learn and enjoy the event. He whispered to his friend, "This is amazing. I have never seen anything like it." His friend smiled and nodded. As the contest ended, everyone waited for Lyra to choose her mate. The room grew quiet. The suitors lined up, looking hopeful. Lyra stood in front of them and looked at each one. People whispered to each other, guessing who she would choose. Some thought she would pick the strong warrior from the planet Keller. Others thought she would choose the famous scientist from the star city of VLOS. But Lyra surprised everyone. She walked past all the important suitors and came down the steps of the stage. The crowd watched in silence. She walked slowly, her eyes searching the crowd. Then, to everyone's shock, she stopped right in front of Ethan. Ethan stared at her, confused. He did not understand why the princess was looking at him. He glanced at his friends, who were just as surprised as he was. Lyra smiled gently and reached out her hand to him. The cameras turned to follow her. Reporters gasped and started to whisper. Lyra took Ethan's hand and spoke in a calm voice so everyone could hear. She said, "He is my mate." Her words echoed across the hall. The whole room went silent. Nobody moved. The suitors looked confused and a little angry. The Lysaran advisors whispered among themselves. Ethan stood still, feeling nervous and unsure. He did not know what to say. For a few moments, it seemed like time stopped. Lyra still held Ethan's hand, her eyes kind and warm. Ethan felt his heart beating fast. He tried to speak, but the words would not come. The cameras caught every moment. Soon the silence broke. Reporters shouted questions, and the crowd began to talk loudly. Some people cheered, while others looked unhappy. News about Lyra's choice started to spread quickly across the galaxy. Ethan still could not believe what had happened. He looked at Lyra, searching her face for an answer. She smiled and squeezed his hand as if to say everything would be all right. The night was only beginning, but Ethan knew his life would never be the same. The beauty queen of Lysara had chosen him, and now the whole galaxy was watching. News of Princess Lyra's choice spread through the palace quickly. By the time Ethan and Lyra left the stage, everyone in the hall was talking about it. Reporters rushed forward, trying to ask questions. They shouted things like, "Why did you choose a human? And what does this mean for Lysara?" Flashing lights from floating cameras followed Ethan and Lyra as they walked. Ethan was not used to being the center of attention. He felt shy and did not know what to do. Lyra led Ethan away from the crowd. She smiled at him and said softly, "Do not worry. You are safe with me." Ethan nodded, but he still felt nervous. He wondered if he had done something wrong. Why? Had Lyra picked him instead of one of the important suitors? He wanted to ask her, but he was too shy to say anything. In another room, Lyra's advisors waited. They looked serious and spoke in quiet voices. One older woman shook her head and said, "This has never happened before. A human has never been chosen as the princess's mate." Another advisor said, "The people will not like this. They do not know if humans are good enough." Lyra listened to their worries, but she stayed calm. She told them, "I have made my choice. I believe Ethan is special." Outside, news about the event spread across the planet. People watched on screens in their homes and in busy markets. Many Lysarans felt confused or surprised. Some said Lyra was very brave, while others said she was making a big mistake. Messages from other worlds started to come in. Some aliens sent congratulations, but others warned that the princes should not trust a human. Back on Earth, Ethan's family and friends saw the news on their screens. They were shocked to see Ethan with the princes. Ethan's mother covered her mouth in surprise. His father smiled with pride but also looked worried. His friends cheered and sent him messages of support. They hoped that Ethan was happy and safe. Ethan was still with Lyra in a quiet room. He finally found the courage to ask, "Why did you choose me?" Lyra smiled and looked into his eyes. She said, "When I watched you, I saw that you care about others. You listen when people speak. You are not trying to show off or be famous." I wanted someone like that. Ethan was surprised by her words. He never thought a princess would notice someone like him. Lyra said, "It is important for a leader to understand other people. You are different from the others. You do not want power. That is what makes you strong." Ethan did not know what to say. He felt thankful, but he was still scared of what might happen next. The other suitors were not happy. Some of them met in a dark corner of the palace. One of them, a tall alien named Varric, said, "This is not right. The princes should choose one of us." Another suitor, a proud scientist, said, "Maybe the human tricked her. We must watch him closely." They agreed to keep an eye on Ethan and try to find a way to change Lyra's mind. Lyra knew that not everyone would accept her choice right away. She promised Ethan, "I will stand by you. My people will see your true heart." Ethan felt a little better. He trusted Lyra, even though he was still unsure about his place in her world. Soon, the palace staff prepared a room for Ethan. It was large and beautiful, with soft lights and tall windows. He looked out and saw the city shining in the night. For a moment, he missed his home on Earth. Everything was so different here. He wondered if he would ever feel like he belonged. The next day, Lyra invited Ethan to join her for a royal meal. The table was filled with strange and colorful foods. Lyra taught him how to eat the dishes, and he tried each one carefully. Some tasted sweet, others were spicy. Ethan smiled at Lyra, grateful for her kindness. The other guests watched him, some with curiosity and others with suspicion. While they ate, Lyra told Ethan about Lysaran history. She explained the customs and why the beauty contest was so important. Ethan listened closely and asked questions. He wanted to understand everything about her world. Later, messages arrived from other parts of the galaxy. Some were from Lysaran leaders who wished Lyra and Ethan happiness. Others were less friendly, warning that Lyra's choice could cause trouble. Some of the old council members called for a meeting to discuss what had happened. Ethan knew that his life would not be easy from now on. Many people would not accept him, at least not at first. But he was determined to try. He wanted to show that he was worthy of Lyra's trust. As the stars appeared in the sky, Ethan walked through the palace garden with Lyra. The air was cool and full of the scent of flowers. Lyra squeezed his hand and said, "We will face this together." Ethan believed her. For the first time, he felt a little hope. Even if the whole galaxy was watching, he was ready to begin this new journey. Ethan woke early the next morning in his new room in the palace. He stared at the ceiling for a long time, still not believing that everything was real. The walls were smooth and shone softly in the light. He heard gentle music from the garden. Outside, it all felt like a dream. He remembered Lyra's words from last night and felt a little comfort. Still, he wondered what people were saying about him now. He knew that being chosen by Lyra had changed his life forever. He got out of bed and looked out the window. The city of Lysara was waking up. There were flying vehicles moving in the sky and people walking to work below. He watched for a while. Thinking about his family and friends on Earth, he wondered what they thought about everything. Soon, a palace worker came to his door and told him that the princes wanted to see him. Ethan washed his face, put on clean clothes, and followed the worker through the bright hallways. As he walked, he noticed that some people smiled at him kindly, but others stared and whispered to each other. He tried to ignore them and kept walking with his head high. Lyra was waiting for him in a sunny room full of plants and flowers. She smiled when she saw him and offered him some tea. Ethan sat down across from her. He felt nervous but also happy to see her. Lyra asked if he had slept well. He nodded and thanked her for the comfortable room. She told him that she wanted to show him more about her world and help him feel at home. After breakfast, Lyra took Ethan on a tour of the palace. They walked through many halls and rooms. Lyra explained the meaning of the paintings and statues they saw. She told him about the old rulers of Lysara and how her family became leaders. Ethan listened with interest and asked questions. He wanted to understand everything. They entered the palace garden, which was full of colorful plants and soft lights. Lyra showed him flowers that changed color when you touched them. There were small birds with bright feathers flying around. Ethan laughed when one of them landed on his shoulder. Lyra smiled and told him that the birds only landed on people they trusted. As they walked, Lyra explained more about Lysaran customs. She said that partnerships were very important in their culture. The people wanted their leaders to be honest and strong. She said that choosing a mate was not just about beauty or power. It was about trust and working together for the good of all. Ethan tried his best to remember all the rules and traditions. Sometimes he made small mistakes, but Lyra was always patient. She told him not to worry and that everyone makes mistakes when they are learning something new. Ethan was grateful for her kindness. While Ethan was learning about the palace, there were many meetings happening in other parts of the building. Lyra's family and advisors argued about her decision. Some said that a human could never understand their world. Others thought that Lyra had a good reason for choosing Ethan. They talked for hours, but no one could agree. Some of the palace staff liked Ethan. They saw that he was polite and tried hard to learn. A young worker named Molly talked to him whenever she could. She told Ethan that some people would need time to accept him, but others were already starting to respect him. Ethan thanked her for her support. At lunch, Ethan sat with Lyra and some of her closest friends. The meal was quiet at first, but soon people began to ask him questions about Earth. They wanted to know what kind of food humans ate, what games they played, and what their families were like. Ethan told them simple stories about growing up on Earth. The others listened with interest and even laughed at some of his jokes. For the first time, Ethan felt a little more comfortable, but not everyone was happy. Some of the suitors who had lost to Ethan met secretly in a dark part of the palace. Varric, the tall alien, was the angriest. He said, "Ethan does not belong here. We must show everyone that he is not good enough for the princess." The other suitors agreed to watch Ethan and try to find a way to make him fail. Later that afternoon, Lyra brought Ethan to a room where the palace teachers waited. They wanted to help him learn about Lysaran language and customs. Ethan listened carefully to the lessons. Sometimes it was difficult, but he tried his best. The teachers noticed his effort and began to like him. That evening, Lyra and Ethan took a walk in the garden again. They talked about the stars and their dreams for the future. Lyra said she hoped the people would come to accept Ethan as her mate. Ethan promised to work hard and show everyone that he respected their ways. As the sun set and the sky turned purple, Ethan looked at Lyra and smiled. He still felt nervous about the future, but with Lyra by his side, he believed that anything was possible. He hoped that the people of Lysara would soon see him as more than just a stranger. He was ready to try. The next day, Ethan woke up to the sound of music and voices outside his window. The palace was even busier than before. Today was an important day for him and for Lyra. News had spread that the Lysaran Council wanted to meet with Ethan. They wanted to see for themselves if he could truly be the mate of their princes. The council was made up of elders and wise people from all over Lysara. They cared deeply about their traditions and wanted what was best for their world. Lyra met Ethan in the hallway. She wore a simple dress and looked calm, but Ethan could see that she was worried. She told him that the council would ask him many questions and maybe give him some tests. She said, "Do not be afraid. Just be yourself and answer honestly." Ethan nodded and tried to hide his fear. He did not want to let Lyra down. Ethan followed Lyra to the council room. The room was very large, with high windows and long banners on the walls. The council members sat in a circle. Some of them looked at Ethan with friendly eyes, but others seemed cold and unsure. The leader of the council, a woman named Marin, welcomed Ethan and asked him to sit in the middle of the room. Marin began by asking Ethan about his life on Earth. She wanted to know about his family, his work, and what he believed was most important in life. Ethan answered honestly. He told them about his parents, his job helping people from different worlds, and his belief in kindness and understanding. Other council members asked harder questions. They asked how Ethan would handle problems between humans and Lysarans. They wanted to know if he was ready to learn their customs and follow their laws. Ethan did his best to answer each question. He said that he wanted to learn everything about Lysara and promised to respect their ways. After the questions, Marin told Ethan there would be some tests. She explained that these tests were not meant to make him fail, but to show if he was ready for life on Lysara. The first test was a puzzle made of colored stones. Ethan had to fit the stones together to make a picture. He worked slowly, thinking carefully about each move. When he finished, the picture showed two hands joined together. Marin smiled and nodded. The next test was harder. Ethan was taken to a garden full of strange plants. The council asked him to find a rare flower, the blue star, which only opened its petals when someone spoke kindly to it. Ethan walked through the garden, talking softly to each plant. He did not rush. Finally, a small blue flower opened in his hand. The council members whispered to each other, surprised by his gentle way. The last test was about solving a problem. The council gave Ethan a story about two villages that were angry with each other. He had to find a way to help them make peace. Ethan thought about the story for a long time. Then he suggested that the villages should meet and share their stories. He said, if people listen to each other, they can find a way to be friends. The council seemed pleased with his answer. While Ethan took his tests, Lyra waited outside. She was nervous and hoped the council would see what she saw in Ethan. When he finished, she met him in the hallway and hugged him. Ethan smiled, but he was tired. He asked Lyra if he had done well. She told him she was proud of him, no matter what the council decided. That night, the council met in private. They talked for a long time. Some members still worried that a human could not be a good mate for the princes. Others said that Ethan had shown respect and kindness and had passed the tests better than many Lysarans would have. In the end, Marin decided that Ethan could stay and continue to learn about Lysara. She said that the tests had shown his true heart. News of the council's decision spread through the palace. Some people were happy for Ethan and Lyra, while others still had doubts. The suitors who had lost to Ethan grew more jealous. Varek was especially angry. He told the others that they needed to act soon. If they wanted to change things. Ethan was tired but happy that he had passed the tests. He thanked Lyra for believing in him. Lyra promised to help him every day. Together they walked in the garden and talked about their hopes for the future. Ethan knew that there would be more challenges, but he also knew that he was not alone. As the stars shone above the palace, Ethan looked at Lyra and felt hope. He was a stranger in a strange world, but he was starting to find his place. He wanted to show everyone that love and understanding could bring people together no matter where they came from. He was ready for whatever came next. Ethan woke up to the sound of alarms. The peaceful days in the palace seemed to end quickly. Guards hurried through the halls, speaking in worried voices. Ethan dressed fast and went to find Lyra. She was waiting for him in the main room, surrounded by her advisors. Her face looked serious and worried. Lyra told Ethan that a royal supply ship had been attacked by pirates during the night. The ship was carrying important goods for the city, and some crew members were taken by the pirates. No one knew who these pirates were, but everyone feared they might return. The council called an emergency meeting to decide what to do. Ethan listened carefully as the council argued about the best way to respond. Some wanted to send warships to attack the pirates, but others worried this would start a bigger fight. Lyra looked at Ethan and asked for his opinion. She wanted to hear a human's idea. Ethan felt nervous, but he knew he had to try. He said, "Sometimes it is better to talk than to fight. Maybe we can find out what the pirates want and offer them something in return for our people." The council was quiet. Some members thought Ethan's idea was too simple, but Lyra said, "They should try?" Lyra and Ethan sent messages to the pirates, offering to talk and asking for the crew to be returned safely. Hours passed before the pirates answered. They wanted money and a safe escape. The council was unsure if they could trust the pirates, but Ethan suggested that they prepare a rescue team just in case. While they waited, Lyra and Ethan talked with the palace guards. Ethan shared ideas he learned from his work on Earth. He explained how humans sometimes use clever tricks to outsmart those who wanted to hurt them. The guards listened closely. They decided to use both plans. They would be ready to talk, but also ready to act if needed. Later that day, the pirates sent the location where the meeting would take place. Lyra wanted to go, but the council refused to let her. Ethan volunteered to go with the guards. He was scared, but he wanted to help. Lyra took his hand and said, "Be careful, I trust you." Ethan and a small team of guards traveled to the meeting place in a fast ship. When they arrived, they saw the pirate ship waiting near an old space station. The pirates looked rough and dangerous, but Ethan spoke calmly. He asked to see the captured crew. The pirates showed the crew members, who were tired but alive. Ethan began to talk with the pirate leader. He listened as the leader spoke about his troubles and why he turned to piracy. Ethan said, "We can help you, but you must let the crew go." The pirate leader was surprised. He had expected a fight, not kindness. After a long talk, the pirate leader agreed to let the crew go in exchange for supplies and a promise not to be hunted. While Ethan talked, the guards kept watch, ready to act if needed. The exchange happened slowly. The pirates released the crew, and Ethan handed over the supplies. When everyone was safe, the pirates left quickly. Ethan and the guards brought the crew back to Lysara. The whole palace celebrated when the crew returned safely. Lyra ran to meet Ethan and hugged him tightly. The council thanked Ethan for his courage and clever thinking. Some council members who once doubted him now looked at him with respect. The story of the rescue spread across the planet. People talked about how a human had helped save their own. Many Lycerans began to change their minds about Ethan. They saw that he was brave and wise in his own way. But not everyone was happy. Varek, the angry suitor, watched Ethan with cold eyes. He told the others, "This is not over. We cannot let a human win." The suitors made plans to cause trouble at the next big event, hoping to embarrass Ethan in front of everyone. Ethan did not know about the suitors' plans. He spent the next days helping the rescued crew and talking to Lyra about new ideas for making peace in the galaxy. Lyra listened to Ethan's stories about Earth and how people could work together even if they were different. She believed that Ethan's way of thinking could help her people. Lyra's family started to change too. Her mother and father began to accept Ethan, seeing how much Lyra cared for him and how he always tried to help. They invited him to special dinners and listened to his ideas. Slowly, more people in the palace welcomed Ethan as one of their own. One evening, Lyra and Ethan stood on the palace balcony, looking at the stars. Lyra said, "You are different, Ethan, but you are strong and kind. I am glad I chose you." Ethan smiled and held her hand. He still felt nervous about the future, but he was no longer alone. As the night grew quiet, Ethan knew that his life would always be full of surprises. He was ready to face any challenge as long as Lyra was by his side. He hoped that their story would show everyone in the galaxy that trust and understanding could change the world, asked ChatGPT. Ethan noticed that the palace was different after the rescue. The guards greeted him with respect. The servants smiled when they saw him walking with Lyra. Even some of the elders who had doubted him now nodded when he passed by. For the first time since arriving on Lysara, Ethan felt like he belonged. He was still learning about the world and its people, but things were easier now. He worked hard each day, helping Lyra with her royal duties and listening to people's worries and ideas. Lyra was happy to see Ethan become more comfortable. She often invited him to important meetings and events. She introduced him to leaders from other cities and worlds. Lyra hoped that, with Ethan's help, the people of Lysara and Earth would become true friends. She believed that their story could help others see past their differences. One day, Lyra and Ethan decided to visit a school in the city. They wanted to talk to young Lysarans about Earth and answer their questions. When they arrived, the children were excited to see them. The teacher asked Ethan to share stories about his childhood on Earth. Ethan told them about simple things, like playing in the snow and eating ice cream in the summer. The children listened closely and laughed at his funny stories. Lyra smiled and said that learning about other worlds was the best way to make friends. As the days passed, more people in Lysara became curious about Ethan and humans. Some of them sent letters to the palace asking for news about Earth. Others came to see Ethan in person, wanting to learn about his culture. Ethan enjoyed talking with everyone. He answered their questions and showed them photos of his family and hometown. Many people said that humans were not so different after all. Lyra and Ethan also started a small group for peace and understanding. They invited young people from both Lysara and Earth to join. Together, they talked about ways to solve problems without fighting. They shared songs, stories, and ideas. This group quickly became popular. Soon, people from other planets asked to join too. Lyra was proud of what they had started, but not everyone was happy about the changes. Some older council members still felt uneasy. They whispered that things were moving too fast. A few of the palace workers and suitors were jealous of Ethan's new place beside Lyra. Varek, the angriest suitor, spoke with his friends every night. He told them, "We cannot let a human change our world. We must stop him before it is too late." The suitors decided to make trouble at the next big celebration. Lyra's parents, the king and queen, watched Ethan closely. At first they were unsure about him. Now, after seeing how he had helped the crew and brought peace, they started to accept him. The queen invited Ethan to dinner and asked about his home. The king asked Ethan for advice about trade with other worlds. Lyra was pleased to see her family's hearts begin to change. The day of the grand celebration arrived. It was a festival for peace and new friendships. People from across the galaxy came to Lysara. The city was full of music, lights, and happy voices. Ethan wore a special robe given to him by Lyra. He felt proud but also a little nervous. He knew the suitors might try something, but he did not know what. The celebration began with a parade through the city. Lyra and Ethan rode together, waving at the crowds. People cheered and threw flower petals in the air. There were dances, music, and food from many worlds. Ethan tried everything, smiling as the children handed him bright candies and toys. He was surprised at how much he enjoyed the day, but in the middle of the celebration, something went wrong. Varek and the other suitors had planned a trick. They set off a small firework near the parade, hoping to scare Ethan and embarrass him in front of everyone. The loud noise made people scream and run for cover. Ethan was startled, but he remembered his training from Earth. He stayed calm and helped Lyra guide the crowd to safety. When the guards caught Varek and his friends, Lyra was angry. She spoke to the crowd and said, "Fear and hate cannot win. Today we celebrate peace and friendship." The people cheered even louder, showing their support for Lyra and Ethan. The trouble passed. The celebration continued. People thanked Ethan for his courage. Some said they were glad Lyra had chosen him. Ethan felt proud, but he also knew he had much more to learn. He promised Lyra that he would always stand by her and help her people dot as the sun set. The sky turned pink and gold. Lyra and Ethan stood together watching the lights of the city. They talked about the future and the dreams they shared. Lyra said, "Together we can change the galaxy." Ethan nodded, feeling strong and hopeful. For the first time, he truly believed that anything was possible as long as they were together. The festival ended with fireworks that lit up the night. Everyone watched in wonder. Ethan smiled, knowing that Lasara was now his home, too. The world was changing, and he was ready to help build a better future for all. The day of the royal ceremony finally arrived. Ethan woke up early, feeling both excited and a little nervous. He looked out his window at the city of Lysara, where people from many worlds had gathered for this special day. Flags and lights decorated every building. Music floated through the air. It seemed like all of Lysara was celebrating. The story of the human chosen by the Beauty Queen had reached every corner of the galaxy, and everyone wanted to see what would happen next. Lyra came to see Ethan before the ceremony. She wore a long blue dress, covered in tiny silver stars. She smiled and took Ethan's hand. "Today is a new beginning for us," she said. Ethan squeezed her hand and said he was ready. He remembered all the things they had faced together, the tests, the dangers, the doubts. He knew he was stronger now, and he was proud to stand beside Lyra. Lyra's family and friends gathered in the Great Hall. Ethan's friends from Earth had arrived too. They looked amazed by the palace, the strange food, and all the different aliens around them. Ethan introduced them to Lyra and her family. Everyone laughed and shared stories. Ethan's mother hugged him and told him how proud she was. Lyra's mother smiled and said she was glad to welcome Ethan as part of their family. The great hall was filled with guests from many worlds. There were people with feathers, scales, and fur. Some had 3 eyes, some had 6 arms, and some floated above the floor. Everyone wore their best clothes for the celebration. When Lyra and Ethan entered, the guests stood and clapped. Lyra led Ethan to the front, where the council and her family waited. The ceremony began with music and dancing. Children from Lasara sang songs about hope and friendship. Then the council leader Marin spoke to everyone. She said that Lyra and Ethan's story was a lesson for all, showing that love and understanding could bring peace to the galaxy. She welcomed Ethan as Lyra's chosen mate and as a new ambassador for their world. Ethan spoke next. He told the crowd how much he had learned from Lyra and from the people of Lysara. He talked about how humans and Lycerans could help each other, and how working together was better than being alone. He said, "We may look different, but our hearts can hope for the same things." The guests clapped and cheered. Lyra stood and took Ethan's hands. She promised to stand by his side and work for peace and understanding between their people. Ethan promised to do the same. They placed their hands on a shining crystal, a symbol of Lysaran trust. The crystal glowed brightly, and the whole hall cheered. The old traditions and the new hopes came together in that moment. After the ceremony, there was a huge feast. Tables were filled with food from every world. People danced and played games. Ethan saw young humans and Lycerans laughing together, sharing stories and music. He felt a warm joy inside. This was the beginning of something good. Later, Ethan and Lyra went outside to the palace balcony. They looked up at the stars, thinking about all that had happened. Lyra said, "Do you remember when you first came here? You looked so lost." Ethan smiled. "I was lost, but you helped me find my place." "I want to help others find theirs too," Lyra nodded. She said she wanted to open the palace to people from all worlds, so everyone could learn and grow together. As the night went on, messages started to arrive from other planets. Leaders sent their congratulations. Some wanted to send students and teachers to Lysara. Others wanted to start new projects for peace and friendship. Ethan and Lyra read the messages together, feeling proud and hopeful. Varek and the other suitors did not try to cause any more trouble. They saw how the people supported Lyra and Ethan, and they knew things had changed. Some even came to Ethan to wish him well. Ethan shook their hands and thanked them, hoping there could be peace. Before the night ended, the people gathered one last time in the city square. There were more fireworks and music. Lyra and Ethan stood together in front of everyone. Lyra spoke to the crowd and said, "This is just the beginning. Together, we can make a better future for all." Ethan smiled at her words. He felt proud, hopeful, and happy. As the stars shone bright above the city, Ethan thought about his journey. He had come from a small place on Earth and now stood beside the beauty queen of a far world. He knew there would always be challenges, but he was not afraid. He and Lyra would face the future together. The people of Lysara and many other worlds watched them and believed that change was possible. The galaxy was full of new hopes and dreams. Ethan was ready for this new chapter. He held Lyra's hand and looked up at the sky, knowing that the best adventures were still to come.